that we have had. And it's really my pleasure to introduce the speaker of the day. It's really a fantastic combination, not seen often. I have great pleasure in introducing Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who is an electronics and telecommunication engineering degree holder. And he's also a software, he has completed his software engineering, and he worked in a multinational software corporation. So everything going right for him from what the perspective of most of the people is. And he was in a situation of perfect material success. However, he thought differently. And then he saw how, in spite of all the material success, there was no apparent solutions for the prevalent stress, depression, addiction, and the misdirection in the society. So he sought a higher purpose in life and wanted to know the root cause of the problems facing the society. And he realized that it was the lack of spirituality and the knowledge of who am I and where am I going. So he got inspired to dedicate his life to sharing spiritual wisdom. And today he travels all over the world from Australia to America, giving spiritual talks in universities like Princeton and Cambridge, and also in large multinational corporations like Intel and Microsoft. It's really an honor to know that he is an author of 16 books. And I'm sure and I hope that this talk will inspire us. Yeah. I'm sure that his talk will inspire us. It's not that to pull away from our material pursuits, but while we are in our material pursuits, we do not lose sight of the main purpose of human life to raise our level of consciousness. Without much ado, I request Chaitanya Charan to give us his words of wisdom on the topic of the day, building inner strength amidst outer storm. Please take over, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
Thank you for inviting me today. I'm grateful to be there with all of you. I'll speak this talk in 3 parts. First, I'll be talking about something about my experiences where I felt the need for an inner shelter, not just for myself, but for those around me. Then I'll talk about some spiritual principles that are at one level universal, and another level also specific, by which we can find an inner shelter. And in the third part, we'll have question answers. So can we mute the participants?
कितने हैं राजीव?
Okay. So
are you muted?
As was mentioned, about more than 25 years ago, I was doing my engineering studies, and I noticed naturally, I was in India in one of the top colleges, the problem of poverty. So I had a great faith in the power of education to bring about transformation in people's lives. So while doing my studies, I started offering free tuition classes to the nearby slum children as a part of a social welfare organization. And while I was doing that, I've befriended many of the kids, and they were nice kids. But soon, as I started opening about their families, I found that, okay, that they often came from dysfunctional homes. Their fathers, especially, were alcoholics, there were domestic violence in the homes. And I started thinking, how much is my teaching them about math or English or history really going to make a difference in their lives when their homes are in such turmoil? Now, when I met their fathers, they were nice people. But then these kids told me that once they drink, it's like they became a different person. So I talked with the leaders of our social welfare organization, and we decided to diversify into offering some help for becoming free from alcoholism. And we did some talks, we got some experts, and there is a small slum in India. Small also in terms of numbers means big, uh, but basically, at least for some time, we were able to help these people become free from alcohol, and their lives seem to have become much better, and we were very happy about it. But unfortunately, once I went there, and the kid and everybody looked devastated over there. So what had happened? So the problem had been that there had been a local election, and one of the candidates, in order to be elected, had come and delivered a truckload of free alcohol for everyone. And not only the fathers, but even the kids, the whole family had sometimes drunk. So that's the time I started thinking that through education, I'm trying to open new doors for these people. But there is something inside them, not just them, in all human beings, which seems to sabotage us from within, which becomes our inner enemy. It can be even our inner nemesis. So I started exploring and reading what it was. And this, we could say, was the problem of poverty. Mm. And I've felt at that time that without actually addressing that inner problem, offering them help, it's important, but it's like pouring water in a leaking bucket. It doesn't really help them. I might get the feeling, oh, I am being so good and so kind and so helpful, but am I really helping them? However, what struck me was it was not just they who were having problems. I was studying my engineering, and there was one student who, I did my electronics and telecommunications engineering, and he was like the genius in electronics and telecom. He had come first in the university for all the 8 semesters of engineering, and at that time he got the highest paying job in his college, in the history of our college at that time. And I used to interact with him, and I found him simply brilliant in terms of his capacity to analyze and solve electronics and telecommunications problems with effortless ease and incredible speed. And yet, he happened to be a chain smoker. And he told me that smoking gets me thinking. Now, 25 years ago, with respect to smoking, people were not as woke as we are now. It is considered cool and fashionable. And then he got the job, and within the first 6 months of while he was in his job, he was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. And within a year, he passed away. So that made me think that the problem of prosperity was not that different from the problems of poverty. That there is it seems there is a self-destructive instinct within all of us. And sometimes it is we who press the button on that self-destructive instinct. Now, I'm not blaming anyone. Sometimes people have difficulties, and life can be unbearably painful at times. And it may seem that alcohol, drinking or smoking can offer us some relief from that. So, without going into the specifics of the social circumstances that might make people turn towards such things, the point is that by turning to these things, even if they had reasons for their life to be so bad that they had to turn to something, But turning toward these things makes life only worse. So there is an outer problem, and quite often, you know, our outer problems are not as big a problem as our inner reactions to the outer problems. Sometimes there might be no bigger outer problems, but still somebody gets into some unhealthy behavior, and then they start hurting themselves, they start harming themselves. So today, the topic we're going to discuss, this is what actually set me on a journey. And that's where I discovered, I was born in India, but I never really seriously inquired about the Indian wisdom texts. I read the Bhagavad Gita, and therein I found in 336, third chapter, 36 text, the same precise question. What is this self-destruction button inside people? What makes them press it? And why do some people press it and some people don't press it? Or why do some people press it so often and some people press it less frequently? So all these questions, I, for the first time, found some reasonable answers. And more than a conceptual explanation of why this happens, there was some tangible strategy outlined to deal with it, to minimize it, to prevent it. And even I, at that time, had severe anger issues. Not severe in the sense of I was never physically violent, but I was always good at words, and I loved English language. One of my favorite hobbies was just picking up dictionary and memorizing words. So because I was good at words and good in English, when I would get angry, I would be verbally violent, and words can break people's hearts. So I found, as I started applying the principles of the Bhagavad Gita, without much effort, my anger started going down. So I found that, okay, maybe there is something over here that works. And I felt that scientific education or economic development in general opens doors for people. It provides opportunities, and it's important. Simultaneously, we need spiritual development, we need inner empowerment to help individuals, and not just talking about people around. I felt it for myself also, that it can help us to go inward, to stop pressing that inner self-destruction button. Now, we may not be self-destructive, but we all act in self-damaging ways. Sometimes we may spend unnecessary amount of time on social media, is following, watching this video and reading this news, and we, even if there is no destruction that we do, self or otherwise, but we often succumb to distraction. And distraction, if repeated sufficiently, if every day we spend half an hour or 1 hour on things which we had better not do, our life, we could have done so many things better through that. So the Bhagavad Gita offers some strategies for dealing with the inner world in a way that we can be internally empowered and not internally sabotaged. So that is the background, personal background, based on which I'll discuss today's topic. So, finding inner anchors amid outer storms. So we could call it inner strength. But how do you get that strength? I will use the metaphor of a storm. So one of the first truths that we realize, if we just live life for some time, is that life is tough. We may all disagree about our particular philosophies. Some of us may accept that there is maybe something spiritual. Some of us may accept or not accept there's something divine. All of us may have our political orientations and so many other things. But one thing we all can agree on is that life is tough. Life is tough. And to some extent, wealth and power and popularity, they promise to make life easier, but it's not that simple. Sometimes having these things makes life tougher or more complex in their own ways. So, what can we do when life's inevitable toughness befalls us? What can we do to deal with it? So, so now, if any of us were living in the illusion that life is easy, the last few months have really exposed that illusion, because we are witnessing a global crisis that has practically no parallels in recent human memory. That is the pandemic. Even if, say, 7, 8 months, maybe 10 months ago, if somebody had told us all international travel would be more or less stopped, would have laughed at the possibility. I myself travel about 9 months a year across the world on speaking tours. And I had my whole year as well as the next year's planned, and everything came to a grinding halt. And it's not just that traveling stopped. There's so many people who have lost their job, so many people have lost their loved ones. So the pandemic is a grim reminder of how tough life can be. And now, when there is an outer pandemic, it of outer storm in the form of pandemic, it can cause an inner storm within us, and that is in the form of panic. Now, panic is just one emotion. I chose that because it rhymes with pandemic. Now, we are, say, in the outer world, trying to flatten the pandemic curve. Now, at a collective level, the government is doing some things at various places, but we alone can't control the pandemic much. But what each one of us can do is we can try to flatten the panic curve. If it's not panic, it can simply be pessimism. It can be negativity. It can be depression. One of my friends is a mental health care provider in LA, in California. So he told me that in the last 6 months, he has got more calls for help than what he had got in the last 6 years when he was working there. And mental health problems are spiraling up. So this is a time when we all can go deeper inside and find a stabilizing mass. Just like an anchor is something which is firm, which is strong. It may or may not be huge, but it has to be firm and sturdy. So if we could hold on to that anchor, then the storm might come and the storm might still hit us, the stormy waves, the stormy wind. But if we could just keep a grip on the anchor, we would be relatively safer. So, what is that shelter? What is that anchor? I'll talk about it using an acronym MASS. MASS. So there are 4 ways in which each one of us can find an inner anchor. So M is meditation, A is association, S is spiritual study, and last S is service attitude. Let's look at these one by one. When we talk about meditation, what does it mean? The essence of meditation is not just sitting in a particular posture. That's fine if it's helpful, but the essence is to shift our focus from the changing external world to the unchanging inner source. To shift our focus from the unchanging to the changing, from the outer to the inner, from the world to the source of the world. And there are many different ways of meditation. Meditation essentially involves 2 things: the mode of thinking and the object of thought. The mode of thinking means that how are my thoughts? Are they restlessly jumping from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as they often do, various places? The mode of thinking. And the second is the object of thought. What am I thinking about? So quite often, we may start with some object. Some people may say, okay, just meditate on the light of a candle. Some people may say, just meditate on some beautiful natural scenery that you see or you visualize. Some people may say meditate on your breath, and all this is helpful. We have some object of thought, and after that object of thought, as we start step focusing on the object of thought, then slowly our mode of thinking starts changing. As we start getting absorbed in that object of thought, our thoughts start becoming calmer, they start becoming steadier. In one sense, using any object of thought may help. However, some objects of thought are more helpful than others. They're helpful in the sense that they can change our mode of thinking faster. Let's understand how this happens. So, to basically understand how meditation works, the yoga texts of India, such as the Bhagavad Gita, explain that reality is multi level. There are basically three levels: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So, at the physical level of reality, that's what we experience externally around us. And internally inside us, we have the mental level of reality, is the mind. And beyond that, there is we who are conscious beings. There's a spirit, that is we, the soul, we, the source of consciousness. So often this difference between mental and spiritual is not so easy to perceive. So I would like to do a quick thought exercise to illustrate this difference between mental and spiritual. So wherever you are presently situated, I'd request you to sit comfortably and close your eyes. This will just take a couple of minutes, but this will give you a glimpse of the higher realities that we are talking about. So please close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, keep your eyes closed and observe your breathing. 3. Now, with your eyes closed, look ahead in front of you. Because your eyes are closed, you can't see much. You can't see anything that is physically outside. At the same time, there is some kind of screen inside you on which you might see various things. You might see your phone, you might see your neighbor, your partner, your car, your office. You might see some favorite website or favorite character, or you might see just a series of images coming and going, or you might just see a dull haze of colors. Whatever it is that you see specifically, you see it all on some kind of screen inside you. Now, while you're watching that screen, try to take a step backward and catch sight of who it is that is watching the screen. I repeat, there is this inner screen inside you. You try to catch sight of the seer of that inner screen. Try again, take a step back and try to catch sight of the inner seer. No matter how much you step back, the inner seer steps back with you. What you are looking for is what you are looking with. What you are looking for is what you are looking with. So, for all of us, that inner screen is our mind, and the inner seer is who we are. We are the source of consciousness, we are the spark of spirit, we are the soul. You can take one deep breath and then you can open your eyes. Thank you. So, to repeat this once again, now you're looking out and possibly you're seeing this slideshow and you're seeing me. So, that is the part of the outer scene. There's the outer scene, which is the physical level of reality. This outer scene comes on an inner screen inside you. That is your mind. And that inner, what appears on the inner scene is seen by you, the inner seer. So let's look at another metaphor to understand this. We could say the body, the mind, and the soul are like a computer system in which the body is the hardware, the mind is the software, and the soul is the user. So I've used the mind and use another term for the mind, that is the lower self, and for the soul, the higher self. Why is that? Because we sometimes misidentify with the mind, and whatever stray thought or desire comes up within us, we give in to it, we pander to it. Oh, let's eat this, let's watch this, let's buy this, let's drink this, and we just give in to that. So that's like, imagine you're working on a computer system, and on the software, on the computer screen, suddenly a notification comes up. Your friend has updated their Facebook profile photo. Oh, let me have a look. What photo have they put? We click on it and see the photo and we think, hey, this, interesting. Okay, what more is there? And you might think we will just do that for a minute and we may end up spending hours on that. That's how we might be distracted. So this is the lower self. So the key principle that we learn through meditation is that everything inside me is not me. I repeat this, everything inside me is not me. I talked earlier about a self-destruction button inside us. So what is that? The mind pops up with some stupid ideas, some self-destructive ideas. And if we accept them, then we are unwittingly pressing the self-destruction button. Now, the key thing is we don't have to accept them. Although sometimes, or many times, we might accept the proposition of the mind. So what meditation does is that it doesn't just calm us down. Yes, calming down is important. But that's why understanding the difference between, say, the object of thought and the mode of thinking. Meditation, it is meant to help us become aware of our inner dynamics. It helps us, say, we want to focus on a particular object of thought. In the yoga tradition, often sound is used for sonic meditation, or as it is often called, sonic therapeutic intervention. That we use sound as a tool for meditation. We chant sacred mantras. And now when we try to focus on the mantra is the object of thought, and the mode of thinking is focus on it steadily, focus on it steadily. But when the mind goes here, there, I want to do this job. Why did this person speak like this to me? Where did I keep that thing? I've lost it. Why am I so dumb? Why are people so dumb? Then we have all these thoughts coming up, and then we try to refocus. Hey, I was supposed to meditate. The mind goes here, there, and we bring it back. That's when we start understanding this thing inside me, my mind is not me. It's inside me, but it's still different from me. And gradually, as we become aware of the difference between us and the mind, we can increase the distance between us and the mind. I repeat this. First, we need to understand the difference between us and the mind, and then we can increase the distance between us and the mind. Hey, that's the mind speaking. I don't have to listen to it. And the more we become adept at it, so the software will give us a pop-up. Okay, there is a Facebook notification for you. Okay, I don't need to look at it right now. Maybe I'll look at it later. So that's how meditation, what it does is, it trains our inner muscles so that we can increase the distance and the difference between us and the mind, and therefore we can say no to the mind when we need to. So the meditation is vital. So we all may have certain negative reactions. Say somebody might, their go-to reaction when they are stressed, going back to the starting examples I told, that say somebody is poor, but they are getting along in life, but maybe their boss insults them, and their go-to reaction at that time is drink and forget your sorrows. So then that is the button pop, that is a but self-destruction button within them getting activated. Hey, I don't need to drink. It doesn't solve my problem, it only makes it worse. So now we all intellectually know it, but to know it at that time is the critical thing. And meditation, by making us aware of our inner world, see, meditation doesn't just bring calmness to our inner world, that's important, but meditation also brings clarity in our inner world. And not just calmness, not just clarity, but after that, it brings control in our inner world. Hey, I don't need to say yes to this, I'm going to say no to this. So, of course, meditation is a big subject, and we will not go further into this. We'll discuss something more in questions. But my point is, meditation is a very important tool for inner empowerment. And it empowers by giving calmness, clarity, and control. Let's move on to association. Association refers to the kind of people we mix with. And to understand the power of association, it's critical to know that our desires are not just linear, but also triangular. What do I mean by linear and triangular? You can see the diagram over here. See, we see some sensory modality, some object, and we desire to have it. That's a linear desire. Say a kid has never drunk or say smoker, but that kid goes to a college, and there some guys come and tell him, oh, come on, let's have a drink. No, hey, everybody is drinking, be cool. Okay, let me try it out. And so here what has happened, just by seeing the bottle of alcohol, the kid may or may not have had the desire, but the kid sees somebody else who is drinking, and from there they get the desire. So that's a triangular desire. So our desires can be linear, they can also be triangular. And especially for us, when we want to do something uplifting, in general, the nature of the world is that which is good for us doesn't always look good. And that which looks good is not always good for us. There are so many temptations in the world which can drag us down. So, say if we go to a hotel with fast food in it, it looks good. Oh, there's so much menu over here. But if we go to a gym where there are various ways to exercise, that might not look so good unless, of course, we have a habit of exercising. So, it's for things which are not good for us, things which are self-destructive, quite often developing the linear desires is easy. But for the things which are good for us, the linear desires don't come so easily. See, we may not, okay, we go into a gym and we see all the big machines, hey, and all the big weights and all that stuff. Hey, this looks difficult. But on the other hand, if we see some friend and who maybe was obese and now they're looking slim and healthy and energetic, hey, I would like to become like that. So what happens? The linear desire for exercising doesn't come, but the triangular desire comes up. Now, in this case, sense object doesn't necessarily mean necessarily a tempting object. It can refer to any object that is perceived with our senses. When we see it, then we desire it. So, building on the topic of meditation or any other healthy habit that we want to develop, by which we can gain an inner shelter. Inner shelter requires as an outer atmosphere or outer association with like-minded people who are seeking that inner shelter. Now Awaken the Soul is a forum where online at present, maybe in future, physically also, you can meet like-minded people where you can have your healthy desires activated by tapping the principle of the triangularity of our desires. So association is vital. for us if we want to create a healthy future for ourselves. In fact, a fair estimate, we often want to know of our future. And sometimes people go to astrologers, some people go look at tarot cards, and some people want to look in crystal balls. All that is mm, it, whatever its utility value, a far more reliable indicator of our future is we don't need to look inside a crystal ball. We can look around and see who are the people who we hang out with. And not hang out doesn't just mean we spend time with. What does association mean? The essence of association is transfer of desires. Who are the people who affect me the most in terms of their desires become my desires? So we need to keep a track of that. And if we do that, okay, among the people around me, say if we are in a job, and if we are having a competitive job, a high end, high paying, high octane, high pressure job, then around us there are different kinds of people. Everybody wants to be an achiever, but different people may deal with the challenges in different ways. So who are the people who we are most influenced by? If we look at that, that's what is likely to determine our trajectory. So we need to create healthy association. Now, how do we define a healthy association? Healthy association is that association which triggers healthy desires within us, which transfers healthy desires within us. And healthy desires are those desires which help us find inner shelter. And by that, come up with healthy responses externally. So going back to my college friend who was a university topper, was at the top of the university in all his semesters. Now, he used to live in his majestic glory. Nobody is as good as I am. And by living in that majestic glory, the result was that he couldn't really share with anyone his heart. As most of you know, that as you go higher up, it becomes more and more lonely. And then if we don't have friends, then when our mind starts eating us up from within, there is no one we can turn to. How can we know somebody is a close friend? One simple way is that generally say I am here, my mind is here, and the other person is here. So normally if anybody speaks something, we process it through our mind. If somebody is very nice and cordial and friendly to us, immediately our mind says, what does this person want from me? Why is this person being so nice to me? So because often people want some things from us and they want to exploit, we may have that experience. So for most people, we look at them through our mind. But if we have even one close friend, then it will be like this. That means our mind is here, our friend is here, and we are here. Okay. My mind is saying, life is so tough, I can't do anything. Maybe I should just quit. Sometimes people get this thought that maybe the world would be better off without me. Maybe even my family would be better off without me. And that thought, if it's not addressed, it can take a person down, not just gradual self-destruction through some bad habit, literal self-destruction through ending one's life. So at that time, it is someone, okay, your mind is saying like this, but this is what if somebody who understands us, somebody with whom we can open our heart, then they will give us a different perspective from the mind, and that will help us calm down. So that's association. So this is important for us to associate with those who can help us find inner shelter. And a third is spiritual study. Now, I would like to differentiate here between intellect and intelligence. Intellect is information processing ability, whereas intelligence is decision making ability. And our education today provides us a lot of information. information for which stocks we should invest in, information about how a particular engineering object works, information about what kind of business deals we should do or not do. And that's helpful. But in terms of the bigger decisions in our life, now where our impulses come up and then we have to restrain those impulses, that is what spiritual education is all about. I was from engineering background and now I'm studying and sharing spirituality. So people ask me, do these two go together? I say, yes, definitely. Now, science, especially in terms of technology makes things better. Spirituality makes people better. I repeat this, technology makes things better. And we do have extraordinary improvement in the world around us. Things that were unimaginable even for royalty a few centuries ago are now available to the average middle class people. There is air conditioning, there is telecommunications, there's air transport. So we have made things better on many levels in the outer world. So we have improved the standard of living. However, we need to make people better. And what are people defined by? By their driving desires. So I often contrast the standard of living with the standard of longing. Standard of longing means, what are my biggest desires? What is it that I long for? Do I long simply that I want to have a bigger house than everybody in my family or my community? I want to show how I am better than that person. I want to knock out that person. So are our desires simply driven by ego and sense of superiority or inferiority? Or is there some bigger purpose that drives us? So spirituality can help us provide that bigger purpose. So wisdom texts like the Bhagavad Gita, they nourish our decision making ability in terms of helping us deal with our impulses, deal with our, as I talked earlier about, the self-destructive instincts within us, or at least, if not self-destroying, the self-sabotaging instinct within us. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita itself was spoken to a great achiever, Arjuna, who was, in today's terms, you could call a go-getter. He was a warrior, was at the top of his trade. He was a champion archer, and he had to fight one of the biggest wars of his life. And just before that, he became unnerved. His mind attacked him even before the enemies would attack him, and he became overwhelmed. And he told his friend and mentor, Krishna, I can't fight. And he put aside his bow, saying, I quit. And then Krishna spoke the message of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book of 700 texts that has illumined millions for millennia. And yet, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita's Sanskrit text itself, the 700 verses of the Gita can fit in just the front and the back pages of the Guardian or the New York Times. It's not a very big book, and yet it has had a very big impact. By hearing the Gita, at the end, Arjuna picks up his bow in readiness to face whatever life has brought in front of him. Arjuna's bow represents our determination, our spirit. Sometimes life can leave us dispirited, but the spiritual wisdom of the Gita can reinvigorate us. And that's why regularly taking some time out for bathing ourselves in the wisdom of texts like the Bhagavad Gita is vital. Now, what does it do? Three things. Such spiritual study, it gives us conviction. Then, by that conviction of the intelligence, we can have concentration of the mind. And with that concentration, we can have a connection. We can connect ourselves with the deeper realities of which we are a part. What does it mean? When our intelligence has some conviction, quite often When bad things happen to us, our tendency is to overreact, or at least to have a knee jerk reaction. But if our intelligence has the conviction that, yeah, there is a deeper reality to life, there is a deeper purpose to life, there is a higher plan to life, let me just do my part, let me stay calm. Let me, while all this darkness is around me, let me concentrate and see where is there some light over here. Then we will find some positivity even in every negativity. Now, we can't always see adversity as opportunity, but we can always see opportunity in adversity. Not all of adversity is opportunity, but even within adversity, there is some opportunity. And that we can concentrate when we have that conviction that life has a higher purpose, that there is a deeper plan in whatever happens. And then we can connect with the spiritual reality. When we become situated at the spiritual level, then we will find that we can get that inner shelter. So this is spiritual study. And the last is service attitude. Service attitude means, we are all here to contribute. We are all here to make a difference. And we make a difference not by thinking that we can control everything around us, but by learning to play our part. Rather than asking, why is this happening? Of course, we can ask that question, and sometimes we get a constructive answer that is good. But sometimes life is so complex and so unpredictable that the why question simply becomes like a maze. Here you will see a person is just facing that maze and just doesn't know uh, where should I go? What should I do? So if the why question just doesn't give us any answer, we all may have had big plans for our life, and the pandemic has just brought everything to a stop. Why did this happen to me? What can I do? Well, it's happened. Instead of asking, why is this happening? We can ask, how can I contribute? How can I be a part of the solution? So, just like you see a small child, not taking a small sapling in the hand and carrying it. So we can play a small part. Some of us may be called to play a big part, but whatever it is, we play our part. Now we may say that, oh, the world is so big and what I can do is so small. I can't do much. In fact, we may feel I can't do anything about things. Well, if that is what we think, then let's turn the question around and ask ourselves, okay, however bad my situation might be, can I make it worse? What? Already the situation is terrible. Why would I want to make it worse? No, the question is, can I make it worse? Well, of course we can, isn't it? Just think about some relationship which is terrible for us, and whatever we are trying to do to fix that relationship, that's not working. We may say, I am powerless, but can we make it worse? Just remove all verbal restraint for the next 15 minutes and speak out, vomit out all that is there in the heart. Now, even the best of relationships can be ruined. Then, what to speak of relationships that are already bad, they can break down completely. So, no matter how bad things are, we can always make them worse. And if we can make them worse, that means we are not as powerless as we think. If we can make them worse, we can also make them better. And the way to make them better is to ask this question: how can I contribute? Spiritual wisdom explains to us that we are parts of a whole bigger than ourselves. And we are called upon to play our part. Some of us may be asked to, maybe called upon to play a big part, some of us a small part. But if we play our part well, eventually the whole will take care of the whole. So the service attitude is like a flashlight for us. When there is darkness of confusion, of delusion, of distress, of deterioration of things around us, we can either curse the darkness or we can turn on the flashlight of our service attitude. How can I contribute? What can I do? And who knows? If we turn on this flashlight, situations may change, and we may find that our flashlight has changed into a floodlight. That we, by taking small steps, we might end up being able to have a big influence. Or, if we, now all of us, we can think whatever situations we are in, if we think about three things, this could be a concluding exercise. You can do this after the session whenever you have time. Think of three things, not like very impossible kind of things, but three small doable things, which if you stop doing or you decrease you doing them, that could improve the quality of your life. And think of three things that if you started doing or started doing more, that could improve the quality of your lives. And just start doing one of them. So that's possible for us. There are 100 things which could change in our life, but let's change one, two, three of them. So if we pull ourselves together and connect with our source, we all can do better than what we are doing. And when we connect with our source, we all have a small flashlight. But connection with our source, connection with the divinity within us, that can transform our flashlight into a floodlight. And we all can make a far bigger difference than what we thought we could. How big a difference can we make? Well, discovering that can be our life's biggest adventure. The biggest adventure is not to become the CEO of a company or earn a truckload of money or gain some special awards. All that is fine. But the biggest adventure is that how much, if we pull ourselves together, connect with our source, how much of a positive difference can we make for the world? Discovering that will be the most meaningful and fulfilling adventure of our life. So I'll summarize what I spoke today, and then we can have a quick set of questions. So I spoke today on this topic of finding inner shelter or inner anchors amid outer storms. I started my story about how the problem of poverty and the problem of our prosperity in terms of the slum kids as well as the university first kid was that we all have a self-destruction button within us, which often sabotages us. So how can we deal with that? So we can begin with some basic truths that we all agree on. Say such a truth is life is tough. Life is tough, and our reactions can sometimes make it worse. So amid the pandemic, if we respond with panic, we can make things worse. So how can we avoid that? How can, instead of being internally sabotaged, how can we be internally empowered? I talked about four things for that. And the acronym was MASS. I spent the maximum time on M, meditation. Meditation is about changing our object of thought as well as our mode of thinking. And in meditation, if you can focus on spiritual reality and meditate on that, then we start becoming aware of the inner dynamics within us. And when we start, some self-destructive or distracting thoughts starts coming up within us, we can understand the difference between the mind and us, and then create a distance between us and the mind, and thereby protect ourselves. So we discussed the metaphors of the mind being like the software linking the hardware of the body and the user the soul. And we did thought experiment about the inner screen and the inner seer. Then A was association, how our desires are not just linear but also triangular, and especially healthy desires don't come just by looking simply at those objects, which may induce health within us, physical, emotional, spiritual, but by associating with those who have that health. And the essence of association is the transfer of desires. And to have a trustworthy friend means that we are ready to not see that friend through our mind, but look at our friend and then look at our mind. And then I talk about S is scriptural study. Then the technical knowledge that we get in the outer world that can help us to make things better in the outer world. Technology makes things better. Spirituality makes people better. So we have a lot of information, and the intellect that processes information can also be trained. But spiritual wisdom texts offer us intelligence, which can help us make sounder decisions, which can help us understand the impulses and the instincts within us and retrain them for constructive purposes. And this intelligence, how does it develop? By scriptural study, by study of wisdom texts. One is that it helps us gain conviction that there is a higher reality and a higher plan. And then by that, we can concentrate, look for the opportunity amid the adversity. And then we establish a connection with the higher reality by which, with the positive reality by which we move forward. And even the positive reality is small. How do we focus on that? That is by service attitude. Don't ask, why is this happening? Why is this person acting like that? How can I contribute? That question can be like our flashlight, which can show us even small steps, at least small steps. If we feel I'm powerless, we can ask, can I make things worse? Of course I can. Then I can make them better also. And if we pull ourselves together, connect with our source, then who knows, our flashlight might turn into a floodlight, and we can make a far bigger difference than what we thought we could. Discovering how much of a difference we can make can be our life's greatest adventure. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, the slide of the acronym was MASS.
Hare,
ESS, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Thank you so much. There are questions. I love the ending of your session, the transition from flashlight to floodlight. The question is from Tapan Mishra Prabhu, and his question is: we have heard so many different spiritual concepts in scriptures. What is the ultimate spiritual reality we should aspire for in our busy lives?
Okay. So among the many things we have heard of in spirituality also, what is it that we should aspire for? I would say harmony. Imagine if, say, we are on a road, then we are a part of a whole bigger than ourselves. That is the road transport system. And then if we follow the rules and we move forward, then we use the road system, we also get to our destination. So this, we all belong to units bigger than ourselves. There's a family, there is a community, there's a nation, there is humanity as a species, there is our planet, there's our universe. So if we envision all these like circles, so we are at the bottom, we belong to various circles of ever expanding radii. And the biggest circle, what spirituality tells us, is that we belong to divinity. There is an overarching divinity that underlies and unifies all of reality, and we are parts of that divinity. So to live in harmony with the divinity is the ultimate aspiration that we can have. That means one of the fundamental spiritual truths is to know that we all are unconditionally loved, because we are parts of all loving divinity, and we act in a mood of love. We bring that mood of, when I talk about service attitude, the best way, best motivation for service attitude is not just I'll get a pay. Yes, we all will work because we all need money. But then if there is genuine concern, there is genuine affection, there is great love, we can work far more. Nowadays there is often some concern that there is wage disparity between, say, men and women. Now it's not so much because of gender disparity as because, say, when women take a break in their careers to have children, then that affects the onward flow of their career. But actually, to think that women are taking a break from their career to have children, that is a very short-sighted vision. Because often when women have children, they work harder than what they were working at their jobs. At least any job, it is whatever number of hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, some people might work 80 hours, some people might work more than that. But a mother's job is a 24/7. And there is no way we can monetize it actually. So just when a mother cares for her baby, she cares out of love. And there can be incredible amount of hard work that can be done. And that hard work is done without complaining, without resenting. There might be few moments like that, but overall, there is no motivator like love. So what spirituality does in its highest expression is that it infuses our heart with love. And when we do every act of our life, whether it is taking care of a family, whether it is doing our profession, whether it is contributing to our society, we can be infused with that energy of love. And once that energy of love animates all our actions, not only will we do those actions well, but we'll do them in a way that brings good to others. Otherwise, we are motivated by ego, by greed, and then these often are not very healthy motives. And we try to take some ethical shortcuts in order to succeed. And many of the biggest problems in society come because when people are not very healthily motivated, then often the actions that they do backfire in the long run, sometimes even in the short run. So the ideal that we aspire for based on spiritual understanding is that by connecting with the divine internally through love, with a loving connection, we can bring that love into every aspect of our life, and that love can motivate our contribution, and then we all can contribute to make a better world. Does it answer your question?
Hare Krishna. So we will move to the next questions. The next question is from Claire S. The question is, I'm practicing a different faith. How do I amalgamate my current faith with spiritual practice?
Okay. So I just showed the slide once again for those of you who want to see this. Meditation association, spiritual study, and service attitude. Mass. So how do we combine our present faith with our spiritual practices? So I'll just show here a slide to explain this. Basically, we could say there are various paths, and all these paths, we are all trying to climb up a mountain. So if you see here, there's the bottom of the mountain, that is material consciousness. The top of the mountain is spiritual consciousness. And then there is this path up the mountain. So there are some people who claim my path is the only path. That is exclusivism. So now is the path is important, but the purpose is even more important. The purpose is to rise to a higher level of consciousness, to awaken our soul and to become situated in that spiritual level of consciousness. So exclusivism is my way or the highway. The person is attached more to the path than to the purpose. That's one mode of thinking. The second mode is pluralism, where people think all ways are correct, all paths are right. Well, that might seem fine, sound good, but is that really true? Do all paths take us to the top of the mountain? Some might just take us at the bottom somewhere. Some may take us down deep into a valley. So this is a little, if we consider a pendulum, there is exclusivism is only my way is right. The other extreme of the pendulum is all ways are right. But in between, we can have inclusivism. Inclusivism is that there are many paths, but all those paths are included in one overarching purpose. And that overarching purpose is to rise to higher consciousness. So we are more attached to the purpose than to the path. We don't neglect the path, but we remind ourselves of the purpose, and we focus on that purpose. So this is the balanced state of the pendulum. Now, based on this, whichever path we are following, basically every path has two aspects to it. One is we are presented some things to believe, and we are presented some things to practice or to do. So we could say some beliefs and some rituals. Now, more important than the beliefs and the rituals are the practices that bring about transformation. So, for example, when we talk about meditation, there are different sounds which could be used as tools for meditation. in our tradition, we chant specific mantras. For example, we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now, there could be different sacred sounds which could be used uh, as tools for sonic meditation, as objects of thought during meditation. That's fine. So we can, if we understand the universal principles that, okay, that I am at the bottom of the mountain, I have to go to the top. And then we can draw the tools from our tradition that help us move up. And then we can also draw some tools from some other traditions. So the important thing is that we should be focused more on the purpose than on the path. And no path has a monopoly on reality. No path can say that this is the only way. Now, of course, some people might say like that. And when they say like that, we can see that as a statement more for creating focus than for giving an absolute fact. Just like if a patient has gone to a dozen doctors and then goes to a 13th doctor, and the 13th doctor starts prescribing something, and then the patient says, no, but I went to this doctor and he said that, and I went to that doctor and she said that. And then this doctor says, just forget everything that everyone has told you. Just follow this and you'll become healthy. Now, that statement is not meant to reject all the other doctors as false. The statement is meant to create focus. So, similarly, if there are statements that this is the only path, we should see that as a statement for creating focus, not necessarily giving an absolute fact. So, by focusing on the purpose, we can draw upon the appropriate tools that can help us grow up spiritually. See, the Bhagavad Gita doesn't just give a specific path, it also gives us an overview of various spiritual paths. And it can give us certain principles that we all can use for our growth. So that way, if we do that, we all can grow from where we are. So by keeping the purpose in mind and then drawing the resources that help us pursue that purpose, we can both accept our tradition and also accept things that are helpful from outside our tradition, from other traditions also. Okay. Any other questions?
There are quite a few questions. So let's ask this one from Dr. Nishi Singh.
Yeah.
Question is, what's the difference between intelligence and intellect? So the request is to explain a bit more the difference between intelligence and intellect.
So what is the difference between intelligence and intellect? Basically, intellect refers to information processing ability. And that's important, no doubt. At the same time, people with great information processing ability might sometimes make poor decisions. So, for example, we have the example, say, I gave the example of this student who was very good at engineering, but then somehow he got hooked to that habit of smoking, and that ruined his life. So another way to look at the difference is that sometimes we may be good at specifics. Okay, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. But to look at the big picture and to understand what is more important. Intelligence means to see the big picture and place things in the proper perspective. Place things in the proper perspective so that we know what to give attention to when. One aspect of intelligence is to know that success in one area of life doesn't compensate for failure in another area of life. Say, for example, some people might be very good at their profession and they might be on a fast track to success, but maybe their family life is in chaos. Their partners alienated from them, the teenage kids are getting into drugs. And now, if they don't spend time over there to fix those things, then even if they become phenomenally successful in their profession and later on their family breaks apart, the pain of that will be far greater. It won't be mitigated by professional success. So we all work on different fronts in life, and all the areas of our life need adequate attention. So intelligence means to see the big picture and to see things in perspective of that big picture. Whereas intellect refers to within each particular area how to act effectively. So both are important, but sometimes some people might be very intellectual, but they might not be very intelligent in terms of their capacities to make sound decisions. No, this is a sad fact throughout human history that if you consider in the 20th century, in whatever wars have happened, more people have been killed in violent wars in the 20th century than what have been killed in all the previous 19 centuries combined together. And why is that? One reason is that we have developed weapons of mass destruction. And who developed them? That is, people who were very intellectual. To come up with a nuclear weapon, that requires a lot of intellectual ability. But then when to use it, which impulses to use to, or which impulses to give into or to not give into, that's important to understand. So if we consider the history, especially the First World War, even now historians are puzzled. Why did it happen? There was one prince, not a very important prince. He was assassinated because in one part of Europe, and then within some 35 days, the whole continent was on fire. That's like a positive feedback loop. So things escalated. So sometimes if we have intellect, that means we have information processing ability, we have power with us. But intelligence refers to our capacity to use that power wisely. If we don't have that, then we may end up creating more trouble than others who are not as intellectual as we are. So I'm talking about intellect in terms of outer power, intelligence in terms of inner power. So that outer power could be through technology, outer power could be through politics, outer power could be through financial management, whatever it is. So we all learn various techniques and strategies for gaining outer power through our education and our culture today. But how to gain inner power, that is something which is not so easily taught in today's world. So that's why if we have intellect, that's good. Broadly speaking, we would say intellect could be measured through IQ or some other parameters like that. But even if we don't have that, or whatever level we have that, independent of it, we all can develop our intelligence. And in the long run, our life's satisfaction, our life's contribution will depend not so much on how much intellect we have as on how much intelligence we have and how much we develop it. Does it answer your question?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes.
So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, we've got 3 more questions coming in.
Yeah.
The next one is from Jaideep Mathur. And the question is, the company we keep is key, but we need to test our relationships and can lead to a lot of negativity. Does one move away? How can we trust our judgment of people?
Okay. So how can we trust our judgment of people? Well, there is no easy answer, but I would say 2 things over here: intelligence and experience. That means when we meet someone, we get some sense of what kind of that person is, what kind of person they are. And then especially if you want to develop a friendship with them, if we spend time with them, we basically hear them talk, hear them act, and through that we get a glimpse of their value system. By value system, I'm not making so much a moral judgment about whether a person is honest or not, but it just, what are their values? Generally, whatever we value shapes our values. So some people may spend a lot of time talking about politics, some people may be very much into sports, and we won't usually use the word values with that, but that's what they value a lot. So if I want to spend a lot of time with them, I might get interested in this, and I might have spent time in this also. Well, do I want to? So use our intelligence to try to get a sense of the values of that person. Now, some people like to gossip. What does gossip mean? It can mean many things, but basically we could say gossip happens when we hear something we like about someone we don't like. When we hear something we like about someone we don't like, and then we start speaking that to others. So if somebody is constantly speaking negatively about others in their absence, then we can understand, hey, maybe this person is like this. And tomorrow they might speak like this about me. So this is not the right person to open my heart with. But if somebody keeps confidences, then we understand, okay, I can speak with this person. So use our intelligence to make some assessment. And after that, we can move with our experience. So we speak something small, some small secret we share with them, and then we see, does it tomorrow come up on Facebook? Hey, that's going to happen, then we can't do it. So again, going to a pendulum, one extreme is to think that everybody is a good person. If we are naive like that, we will be betrayed, we will be shattered. To think that everyone is good is naive. But the other extreme is to go and to think that everyone is bad. There was a existentialist philosopher who was asked, he's an atheist, but he was asked, do you believe in hell? And he said, yes. Now people were surprised, if he doesn't believe in God, why does he believe in hell? So what is your idea of hell? They said, hell means other people. Hell means other people. Well, that's a terrible way of looking at life. So this is good call it. The other extreme is cynicism. Cynicism is everybody is a bad person. So we want to avoid both these extremes, that everybody is good, the naivety of that, and everybody is bad, the cynicism of that. In between, the balanced state is everybody deserves the opportunity to earn my trust. So that means I'm not going to make a judgment in advance whether the person is good or the person is bad, but I'll play it by the ear. Now, obviously, I cannot go about giving everybody the opportunity, but those people with whom I would like to connect more at a deeper level, instead of making a prejudgment, I use my intelligence and test it with my experience and give them the opportunity to earn trust. If they act in a way that earns trust, that's good. If they don't, then we may respect them at a distance and move on towards some other people with whom we can become closer. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so we have another question from Hari Bhaskar.
Yes, please.
The question is, if service attitude is the final goal, then is it a must to follow the MAS and then service attitude? In other words, is it possible to move directly to service attitude without following MAS?
That's a good point. So can we have service attitude without meditation, association, or a spiritual study? Yes, we can. All of us, we are born and we are brought up, and we all have a certain set of virtues and vices within us. So some of us may have already a culture or a disposition where we want to serve and contribute. Now, if we have that, we are fortunate and we are already well situated to make a healthy contribution in life. At the same time, we all can maximize the contribution that we do. And that maximization can happen if we are better informed. Say, for example, suppose some of us are, say, medical healthcare providers, and say we are working in a hospital catering to the pandemic. So now all over the world, often these medical care, healthcare providing facilities are understaffed. So any person who can help is a big help over there. But at the same time, we might have a person who is a clerk or a nurse, and then we have a person who is a doctor or who is a surgeon. Then the quality of the contribution that they can make is significantly different. So in some ways, say if there is a medical hospital and there is a medical college next to it, and the medical hospital is severely understaffed, should the medical college stop all the classes and just send all the students to the hospital to attend to the staff, attend to the patients? Well, not exactly. I say there people are sick and dying over there. What are you doing, spending hours poring over these books and hearing these classes? Just go and help them. No. No, it is by poring over all those books and hearing those classes that these students can make a bigger contribution in the future. So similarly, MAS, that meditation, association, and spiritual study, that can actually deepen and expand our service attitude and can help, can improve not the quantity, but also the quality of our contributions. So yes, contribution is most important, but we can become better trained and better, more selflessly disposed to contribute if we do all the other things. In today's world, social justice is a big concern for many people, and many people become activists for various causes, and there are many charitable organizations which do welfare work, and all of these do good work. Some of my friends are the top leaders in charitable organizations, and some of them tell me that while some charitable organizations really do a lot of good work, for others it's just another career, it's just another business. You can get a degree in master in social work and or some other degree like that, and people can become CEOs of charitable organizations. And then the activity that they are doing is compassionate, but quite often the mentality behind that activity may not be very compassionate. They are thinking, okay, if I give this much charity or I can feed this many people, then we can get this media coverage, and then we can become the biggest organization. And then, well, okay, that's one part of it, but the essence is to help people. It is not to get a charity. Should not be a photo op. Charity should be an expression of the compassion of the heart. So unfortunately, so the point I am making is, again, this is not a categorical statement criticizing charities, but the point is that we live in a world where good intentions can easily be polluted and even perverted by the situations around us. So we need to maintain our good intentions as good intentions steadily. And that's why having the previous aspects, meditation, association, and spiritual study, they can help us to steadily maintain a service attitude. When we face either overwhelm, basically we can face challenges in life in two ways. One is tribulation and another is temptation. Temptation means that we do contribute, but then our ego starts getting inflated by that, or we get opportunity to not just get fame but get money or whatever. That's kind of temptation. Tribulation is sometimes we act with good intention, but somehow things go wrong and sometimes things become terrible, or sometimes the sheer extent of human misery that we encounter is so great that we feel overwhelmed. So when this temptation and tribulation comes up, that's the time our spirituality will come to the fore. It is our spirituality that will give us strength. And if we don't have that, then our service attitude may not stay. In the medical profession, recently I was addressing a group of medical professionals in America, and we were discussing the topic of compassion fatigue. That if a doctor keeps treating patients more and more and more and more, then what happens is we all have a limited capacity for compassion. Then you become desensitized. It just becomes a job where we start treating people like biological machines that we want to fix. We don't consider people's feelings. We're not attentive to people that much. and compassion fatigue can lead to serious mistakes. So, how to help medical professionals avoid compassion fatigue was the topic of my discussion. And one thing I said is the profession that you are working in, you are already making a substantial contribution, but you need to rejuvenate yourselves. So, meditation, spiritually uplifting association, or reading some wisdom texts, it helps us get a get a bigger perspective. It calms us down. It gives us inner strength, and then that service attitude can be maintained and it can be expanded also. Does it answer your question? Thank
Yeah.
you, Bhaskarji. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm short of words to thank Chaitanya Charan today. It's been a great session. And today my minds have opened up to a different perspective altogether about the aspect of meditation, which is the practice, a beautiful definition given by Chaitanya Charan, where he defined it as a practice to shift our focus from the externals, which are always changing, to the unchanging internals. So we have to focus on the internals. And as we meditate to focus on the internals, it's so important that we have the right association. We commit ourselves to spiritual study, which is the goal of human life, and also develop a service attitude. And the last question was very well answered by Chaitanya Charan, where they asked, I think it was Hari Gopal, Hari Bhaskar, who asked the question of whether we can take to service attitude straight away without the aspect of MAS. So, MAS, I think, in my understanding, I've come to the conclusion, helps in higher quality of S, which is service. So it was really an exhilarating session by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. And yes, it so much is close to the purpose of awakening the soul. The awakening the soul has a vision to systematically propagate knowledge to society at large, to raise the level of consciousness so that the imbalances of values in life is brought down to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Well, it's a very lofty ambition that we have, and we still feel quite encouraged with the kind of comments that we have received. The comments that we have received is it's a fantastic session, it's a very insightful session, and an extremely meaningful session. And these are comments coming from Michelle and Claire as well. And Jaideep Mathur says that it's wonderful words of wisdom of the unchanging inner source. And yeah, so, and then we have Manjuji saying that such an amazing session, lessons for life practices. Now, we're so happy with the kind of feedback that we have received, and expression of feedback is what keeps us going in this voluntary mission of ours. And it's our passion to promote holistic living and to encourage us, besides whatever nice feedback that you've been giving us. Please share these videos, like them, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And in case you have got anything connected to holistic living, Please write to us if you think you can participate in our efforts in any way, and we are always open for discussion. And we also deeply appreciate the efforts of our co-directors, Mr. Rajiv Sharma and Tapan Mishra. I really miss Tapan Mishra today because of internet connection issues. He was not able to come online as one of our panelists. So I thank them always for assisting us in extending the efforts of the Awakening the Soul to the other Gulf countries and now fast expanding worldwide. We have so many people subscribing to our channel and following us. So thank you very much in our efforts. And well, for future programs that are coming up, we, in our pursuit of holistic living, we get in touch with such nice people. And we've also got in touch now with a couple from St. Petersburg, uh, Mr. Maxim and his wife Olga. And we were really taken in by the fact that they have stayed in the north of India for about 6 years, and they've been able to make an India of one of our spiritual centers. And they have produced a movie which is called Reconnection, and they run a company here also, which is called Five Pictures. So I've asked him for permission to air that movie Reconnection, which probably will be the next agenda for Awakening the Soul. We'll announce the dates soon. And it's a 45 minutes movie. And when I started seeing that movie, I could not focus on anything else other than the movie. It has been so well taken, and it has won a lot of accolades from various international film at various international film festivals and the like. They've got more than 14 awards. So we would like to present that movie to all of you all, The Reconnection. So as we move along, we will make announcements of our programs. So please, we request you to like our YouTube page, share them, and subscribe to our channel. And that's the best way you can encourage us in trying to further move towards our very lofty mission. So thank you all once again for spending the Saturday afternoon with us. Thank you very much, one and all. And thank you once again.